My name is Glenn Pasquarel. I'm the Executive Vice President of Merchandise Planning for the Citizen Watch Group. We manage the United States business, the largest market outside of Japan. And we also have within the group Mexico, Canada, UK, and now South America, Latin America. And I run the planning, which is everything from forecasting, merchandise financial planning, purchasing, and inventory management. I think what makes us unique is a constant drive to improve ourselves. The company motto is better starts now. And Citizen itself as a brand, as a company, is a real horological company, manufacturing. So we make the machines that make the watch parts, and we also make the watches and many movements for other watch companies as well. So the technology is really from the ground. It's a vertical technology, which is incredible. To begin with, we have long lead times. It takes a long time to make a watch, to deliver it to the markets. The planning group is always thinking a season ahead, and the commercial team is interested in this season. So it's a challenge all around from that perspective. But also, as we mentioned, channel shift. We call channel shift as a short way of saying a migration of consumers from physical stores to online is happening. There will always be both, but there seems to be an accelerated time since 2020 in younger consumers buying our watches and also buying them online. That's where they're comfortable purchasing them. And so, as you can imagine, it presents challenges with segmentation strategy. How much should we sell on Amazon? What should the promotion be? Because we also want to sell direct to consumer from our own website and tell a story, right? So that's an interesting balance, right, between sales and brand building. And to strike that right balance is quite complicated. At the same time, you have our core wholesale business, which is still half of our business, which is department stores like Macy's. And if you just sit here and you think about where you can buy a watch, we sell it in that channel. So when you think about that, physical stores alone represents over 10,000 points in the United States for our brand, right? Now, multiply that times 2,000 to 3,000 watches, which is not big by any standard. Our CFO comes from the eyewear. It's much, much higher. But if you multiply it that times points of sale, you have this incredible, complex organism of enterprise, right? So it's the way I think about it is like a living organism. Our mission was to find a provider where we could connect merchandise financial planning, top down, bottom up. So that's creating the sales revenue plans, the gross margin plan, and have that seamlessly integrated with demand planning, the bottom up, the 20,000 records that we're forecasting and buying to. And obviously the third piece being supply planning and inventory management. So what we loved about '09 was we wanted one solution, cloud-based, that could connect those different functions, because my department does that, all those three things. With regard to managing inventory levels, we're taking a phased approach. So the first is we rolled this solution out just to the US. So I already explained that we have a connection in the supply planning solution with the bottom-up demand plan, and then we have the sales plan, top down, bottom, the reconciled sales plan in real time to compare to the forecast. And so the reconciliation piece is forcing a process, a decision point, the discipline we didn't have prior to it, right? So I think we think about a planning solution as saying, well, I'm just going to plug it in and it's going to fix all my problems. But what this solution and the process it creates is really the important part, right? How do I bring groups together to make decisions? Phase one is the United States and connecting, managing this inventory just for our group, okay? And having it financially reconcile to the sales plan and an inventory and a purchase plan. So we call it the PSI, purchase, sales, and inventory. It's like the S&OP monthly process, which we've developed in the States. Eventually, phase 2, we'd like to roll that out to other markets within our group, the UK, Canada, Mexico, Latin America, and then maybe at some point to centralize to make a global company, at least a regional global company where we do the planning together. So all of the forecasts are sent and we make the centralized purchasing and planning and the distribution from a hub. That's the bigger vision. And then ultimately we'd like to tie it in. We're a make-to-order company today, like a lot of watch companies or complicated product companies, which means that we place an order, we get the product in 5 or 6 months. And we'd like to start sharing more of the forecast with our back end, with the manufacturing and the suppliers, so that we can have more agility in making changes, which is required today, right? What the consumer wants is changing, evolving. We talked about the channel shift, where the consumer is buying, who's buying in various channels. So to me, it's like a complex matrix. Why we chose '09, we went through a rigorous review process. I believe we started off with 4 candidates and narrowed it down. 1 dropped out voluntarily when we gave them the scope. But the biggest, I would say, are 3 areas, specifically why '09 was chosen. We wanted a cloud-based solution. We wanted a company that offered a merchandise financial planning solution, a supply planning solution, and a demand planning solution that were fully integrated and on the cloud. So there are other companies that do that, but I would say the biggest standout in '09 was the flexibility of what you could design, the system you could design, so you could tailor it to your own needs. Yet the out-of-the-box solution had some pretty robust functionality, for example, like NPI, new product introductions, which was nice, which we ended up modifying. So that was a big deal because we wanted to have great statistical planning. And I'll talk about that in a minute, how great that is with we have a data scientist in-house that's really helping us accelerate the accuracy of the modeling. But there are other pieces of it as well, like enrichments, like assortment planning. I need to know when customers are dropping models or expanding models that are doing really well to all doors. And how do I enrich the forecast in a very low touch way to represent that and buy to it? Well, we developed our own, with '09's help, a way to manage that in a very, we call it the model control table, in a very straightforward way. Very little information we need from the commercial teams can be input into a table in '09, and the transformation of the forecast, that enrichment layer, is done instantaneously. So that's part of it, the kind of '09's flexibility to say, we understand your challenges, and in these areas we can work on custom solutions. And then there's a third one, but I don't really know if we knew this when we made the decision. I've never worked with a company that had better group of people. So they're very invested in your solution and making sure you're seeing return on investment. I have worked with software providers, SaaS providers in the past that are like, okay, we did your implementation, and then if you want to come back and do another iteration, or with '09, it's completely different. It's a continual improvement. Like I said, our company, Better Starts Now, we have this thing, always improving, always improving. We found a software partner that has the same mindset. Always improve, always improve. And in fact, our win, they look at as their win. What does that mean? And maybe that's a little general for many people. I'll tell you specifically, there's a customer success team that we work with. So we're constantly looking at evaluating the way we use the system, not just to fix, but to enhance the user experience. And that takes months of use, feedback to our customer success team. I think the majority of them are in India. I know there's 2 now '09 facilities in India. They're fantastic because we created a center of excellence on our side, and they're very responsive about those changes. So that's really important because you don't want a 3-year, 5-year. This is a long-term commitment for the organization. So I think that's probably the third piece. I don't know if we knew when we chose '09 that it would be, we'd have that symbiotic relationship and a real strategic software company, but we know that now. Regarding the implementation, the original scope was just the United States business, which is a very large market to start. It's like a proof of concept. Not really. I mean, we said, okay, we're going to start here. Let's see what success we have with the largest market, because we also want to develop the process to complement the solution. So that took place in, over the last couple of years. We did the implementation and then the refinement of the process and the enhancements in the system. We're in year 2. Now we're migrating to SAP S/4HANA, also a cloud-based ERP solution. And as we do that in the CWA watch group markets, Canada, UK, they'll get the SAP solution and then they will get the '09 solution. So our idea is to roll out the demand planning piece of that, eventually to have them send the demand forecasts to us in like a phase 2. Once all the implementations are done in the local markets, they'll send us the forecast. We will place a purchase order, probably with designations by market of what the quantities are, and then we can more readily share. It's really globalizing the supply chain. We can readily share inventory more easily, redirect, share excess inventory across markets, intercompany. So to really make it more global. And also, so they have a robust planning solution because, as you might imagine, in some of these markets, they're using Excel and it's a bit more rudimentary. Okay, so what we've been able to unlock in terms of return on investment from the '09 solution are the following. We migrated now to a POS model and have much higher accuracy than we did in the booking model. We hired a data scientist to help us with that process, to be trained by '09 and to constantly work on algorithms, rules, outlier corrections, the data science piece, so that all of that could be very low touch for the planners and they know they got a good baseline for any model, regardless of how choppy the demand is or inconsistent it is. That's a huge win because we have much higher accuracy, but we can also explain to the organization that the accuracy is on the POS side. When you convert it to the shipping side, meaning offset it, some of the accuracy is lost. Why? What's driving that? Why are we overshipping or undershipping? That'll help with the learning that the organization make in the alignment we talked about. So that's a big area that I'm happy about. Maybe a little inside baseball for planning groups, but that's really positive. The other piece is inventory. We've been able to significantly reduce our inventory in 1 year for both the Bulova and the Citizen division, which is a big deal, right? Because we are more focused on inventory turnover, productivity of inventory, and that's been extremely helpful. And we did that in large part through the data '09 is providing us, all the way through to the supply planning solution where you can plug in safety stock, what to order, what not to order. It's giving us that recommendation. So that's 2 big wins. And the third one, I need to explain. To me, it's the most exciting, but it was also the most challenging to implement and the most pushback from the organization, specifically the commercial teams, which was allocation of inventory. If I could paint a picture, 4 years ago, we had over 400 allocation locations. Allocation location is your Macy's, you have your location. Your JCPenney, you have your location. Your Fred Meyer, it doesn't matter how small the account is, you had your location. None of the locations were connected together. There was no network. there was no logic. So when you locker stock, there's an old term, when you moved inventory to a location, it was out of network. It wasn't visible to anyone else. And only your account could order that quantity that was in that location. Just think about this. Over 400 of these existed 4 years ago. So if I want a Macy's order, I point to that location. If I'm Fred Meyer, I point to that location. What if there's inventory in this location I need for that location? There's no logic in the system. And by the way, that commercial team wasn't giving up that quantity for another account. So think about how siloed that was to the model we have today. I can't underestimate how big this change was for us and how painful in some ways this was in a good way. Today we have less than 10 locations. Today, O9 is providing a rebalancing of inventory based on the forecast and how important the account is, right? So you have the demand priority and you have the forecast itself. If it's within the forecast and you're a high priority account, you're going to be up the chain in terms of if we don't have enough for everyone. So what does this mean? This is quite esoteric unless you're a planning person. This is dramatic in the sense that if you have the channel shift we talked about, where you have now 50% of our business is being bought online. Consumers are buying directly online. How do I know that I can give them a consistent amount of inventory every single day, right? Because what happens if I don't? It drops off the website, right? You need an automated solution to say, I just need enough there. So we designed the priority so that direct to consumer, this e-commerce piece would always be fulfilled, would always have a quantity, whether or not there was a forecast signal. And as a result, we have tremendous growth. We're complementing the strategic growth of the organization with our Citizen Watch and BulovaWatch.com businesses, which is driving our growth forward in leaps and bounds. And the automated allocation system is facilitating that. That's very, very exciting. I will also say it was also the most pushback that I ever received in my professional career. And it was a learning for me as well, because if you're taking away all of that private inventory that I could count on, what do I commit to I have to have faith that the forecast is going to give me enough inventory to fulfill my orders. And so that was quite a big transition. And if I could give advice, is don't lose sight of the hearts and minds. Even if you develop a better solution, you have to take the commercial team and the organization along with you. So we have great success today, but it came with a lot of training. We had to give them confidence that this is going to work, and it's a bit different vision than we had before. It'll create a system which is much more efficient for everyone. Oh, but that means I'll have less, was the mindset, but it didn't. It's not that way. Ultimately, you have a technical resource inside the company that can work with the customer success team to do the enhancements, maybe at some point do them himself and, in the test environment and alleviate some of the burden that we're pushing to the O9 CS team. Why does this all matter? Because exactly what we talked about all morning. If there's great change, and there always will be great change, the system will need to respond to those changes in some way, right? And you can't anticipate what there will be today. So if you have that expert that understands the system from a technical standpoint and has the ability to make or recommend changes or work with, that'll make you much more agile, right? This is what we're getting to. The more frozen or less agile a company is, it cannot respond to changes, right? So where is a piece of that today? I mentioned in our lead time. So someday if we could say, I'm going to break down the lead time because I'm going to provide a forecast and order parts in advance, and it's not all make to order, agility. That means you become more agile. And we go in the opposite direction. I'm more frozen if it doesn't happen this way, by channel, by product group, by category. Then I don't have a lot of options, B and C, right? How do I succeed? So it's all about agility. The planning solution, the process, the center of excellence helps you become more agile as an organization to respond to changing times.